Hello, and welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. What I wanted to discuss today is something that I have been wanting to discuss for quite some time. It was a lady that lived on the island of Okinawa when we were there, named Mrs. Fink, an older lady in her 70s by the time I met her around 1974, 1975. The first time I met her was in the PX. My mother introduced me to her, and well, actually, it was before that. They had something at Kubasaki High School during spring vacation, various activities going on. And in one of the rooms, she did a slideshow and showed color slides of China taken back in the 1930s prior to World War II. Very, very interesting to watch. But I met her that time. And then in Sukaran, Dr. Khan and her were putting together some type of tape, educational tape, and me and another boy did voiceover readings for it, for some kind of class they were doing or something. I can't remember exactly what it was or what it was I read or anything, but she was a very, very nice lady. We had met with her one time, I think 1975, and my parents, we went to dinner at the Okinawa Grand Castle. We met her at her house. I got to see this part of the house. It had all kinds of antiques all around, very, very well, very shiny floors. And I saw an office that had all kinds of books and paperwork and everything. She's a very interesting woman to talk to, and she actually gave me some coins she had gotten in one of the Asian countries, and I still have those. But she treated children like they were adults. She treated them with respect, it's a very, very, very nice lady. But I haven't really discussed her yet because I wanted to find an article on her with some information. I've been going through the This Week on Okinawa magazines that I have, and I finally ran across an article on her. But here's a picture of Mrs. Fink right here, and little history about her. Most of her adult life, she lived in Asia, and she lived in Owasi, and her home was full of Chinese artifacts, Okinawan artifacts, and hundreds of books. She was the administrator at the University of Maryland master's degree program in counseling and personal services, and she taught freshman and sophomore English. That was when we were there. She was born in New York and lived in Peking, China for 16 years. Her hobby was reading about Chinese people and their history. She worked in government education during the U.S. occupation in Japan, then came to Okinawa to be a GM for a commercial company for 2 years, and then was the principal of Mercy Elementary. She was director of education for U.S. Civil Administration, a lecturer in English for the University of Maryland for the past 9 years. So this issue that I was reading was a December 1974 issue of This Week on Okinawa. So at that time, I remember I'd asked her how long she had been on the island. This was probably about 1964, or I mean 1974 or 75. She had told me 10 and a half years. So I guess she came to Okinawa around 1964, around that time. Um, One of the things she said about military, I'll read a quote. Mrs. Fink finds her military students very interesting. They are much more highly motivated and many students on U.S. campuses, and their attitudes seem more mature. She comments. She retired from government in 1970, and every 10 years she goes back to California to visit her daughter. And her daughter she only had one child. And her daughter was born in Tientsin, China, and her daughter had seven children. So she would spend time with her daughter and her grandchildren, and for a while, and she liked to get back in the American setting again, and never knew anything about her husband. I don't know whatever happened to him or anything. Nobody remembers her ever mentioning his name or anything about him at all. So I don't know anything about her husband. I would assume she was on her own for many years. It said that she lived in Kashaba Terrace before living in Awasi. She was talking about Awasi, and she was saying that basically the where else could a rich where else could a lady live with such a beautiful view of the ocean than Okinawa? Otherwise, if she'd have to be a rich lady to be able to have that kind of a view like she had in Okinawa. Um, Another quote from her is, "This is a room." She talks about a room with the books in it and the papers. "This is a room I live in when I don't have company. I'm very happy doing what I'm doing, and I must keep up with all kinds of reading. A university instructor can't become a vegetable, even if she is an old lady." That's a quote from Mrs. Fink. But yeah, I do remember her, and I don't know how long she actually lived. I heard from somebody that she was still around in 1983. We left the island in 1976, so I think my mother may have received a letter from her in 1977. But from what I understand, she was around until at least 1983. But anybody has more information on her, I'd like to hear it. I was trying. I've looked on the internet to try to get information on her, see if there's any biography or anything like that, and I could not find anything on her. I mean, very very interesting woman to talk to, and probably a lot more about her than what I was able to obtain from the This Week on Okinawa um, article. And as always, thanks for watching.